الطاهرين المعصومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أرواحنا له فداء. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. واذكرنا ما يتلى في بيوتكن من آيات الله والحكمة إن الله كان لطيفا كبيرا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Jamil Mu'minin Mu'minat. First and foremost, I congratulate the Imam of our time, Imam al-Hajj, Imam Zamana Jafar al-Sharif, and then all of you on the occasion which will be upon us tomorrow. That is the birthday of Imam Hassan al-Mushtaba alayhi afdal salatu wassalam. Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Although that is the occasion, my focus, I'll mention a few things from Imam Hassan al-Mushtaba, or at least from his seerah, but yesterday we were going to deliver a lecture, Isar al-Thawab, for the Marhuma Marzia Kafchin. So, in any case, we decided to delay it until today. The role of a mother, especially in this, dealing with the topic that I have selected about faith, family, and the future, or the art of developing a religious household. The mother plays a very central role in developing that household. And this is, despite what sometimes the perception is that, yes, in the household that the walayat is with the father. Yes, the walayat is with the father, with the husband. But according to, again, the ahkam, that walayat is maintained with the father as the head of household as long as he's fulfilling his duty and his responsibility, meaning he's obligated to take care of the family. If he's neglecting that duty and responsibility, then the wife could, for example, go out and work, as we mentioned before, without the permission of the husband, or without taking that permission, because he is not fulfilling that duty and the obligation to take care of the wife and take care of those needs. Likewise, in some situations as well, again, the walayat over the children, it goes is for the father and the paternal grandfather. However, if the paternal grandfather is not there, or both the father and the paternal grandfather are neglecting the responsibility, then that walayat is definitely for the wife or even her father, the maternal grandfather. So, the mother, in any case, whether she has that walayat or has to kind of come forth to as a single mother, or someone that she's in a household where the husband or the paternal grandfather is not able to fulfill the responsibility duties, or she's in a whole and wholesome household. In either case, the mother plays a very pivotal role in the tarbiyah, the upbringing, and the education of her children. And this is why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says that paradise and Jannah tahta qadamil ummah, that the paradise is beneath the feet of the mother. The mother as well, along with the father, and this is the ideal situation, that they fulfill three instructions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives in the Quran. And those three instructions, they guide us in that direction to build a wholesome household. It guides us in that way in order to ensure that the future of our household is a religious future. And that is the first instruction that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives, is to protect your family from sin. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَهْلِيكُمْ نَارًا. So protect yourself and protect your family from the hellfire. وَقُودَهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارَةُ. So our obligation is in that. And one way to do that is to ensure, or at least to make sure, that the husband and the wife, the parents, are on the same page with regards to tarbiyah of their children, that they themselves are not at conflict or at odds with how to raise their children. Because if they're at conflict, if they're at odds, then this is going to send mixed messages to the child. The child doesn't know whether to do this or to do the other thing. And unfortunately, sometimes there are households that have those conflicts. And to give you one example, one parent would say, oh, the daughter, she should wear a hijab. The other says, no, she shouldn't wear this. It's okay. She's young, even though she reached to this age of bulugh. So no, it's okay. No, don't do it. And the other parent says, no, she has to. And so that sends types of mixed messages. So, of course, when it comes to these matters, the parents should be in agreement, number one. Number two, they should be observing what is their duty and their responsibility before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also help the child to understand their duty and responsibility before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the believers in Germany, this actually happened to him because they encouraged their daughter to wear a hijab. And she was a young teenager, in the preteens. And so they moved to Germany, and she's in middle school, the beginning of middle school. And so as she's getting acclimated there and she's studying, so one day the principal and the teachers, they called the father to the school. So, oh, we think there's something wrong with your daughter. She's, maybe she's depressed or, and so he was like, well, why? What makes you believe that she's depressed? Because if this is the case, we need to make sure that, we give her the help she needs. So, she doesn't chase after the boys, and, most girls at this age, they chase after boys and they're talking. And so he's like, subhanAllah. He's like, so, mashallah, he was like, this is good news for me that she's not doing this. He says, this is good news. Why? Because she's observing that adab and that akhlaq of Islam. She's doing her duty. She's fulfilling her duty. So while they were concerned, he was happy. He said, alhamdulillah, this is good. As we were explaining, or at least going to speak about the Isal al-Thawab of Marazia Kafshin, she was someone who also encouraged her family, at least from the discussion I had with Aga Ramadani. It was like that she always encouraged the family to go to the masjid. So he said he grew up in the masjid. He grew up, in service of the masjid. In fact, her family, and this is why, again, the name, of course you guys pray, a few of you guys understand Farsi, Kafshin means a person who straightens their shoes or lines up shoes. So her family is a family from Mashhad that they would be, like whenever you go to ziyarah, you'll see people who would take the shoes and they put it in the little cubby hole, things like that. So that was her family. Her family was that group of families who put these shoes together. And subhanAllah, it's interesting how this name is stuck to them. What their last name before that, it could have been something else. But they took honor in that, Kafshin, that yes, we are the people who take the shoes. We're the people who line up the shoes for the service of the Zuwar, those who come in service of Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdal salatu wasalam. And this is something that even when you look at some of our great ulama as well, that they took honor in that as well. That even some of the great ulama, remember one of the stories of Ayatollah Burjadi, that whenever he would go to a majlis for the Imam Hussein alayhi afdal salatu wasalam, that that when he entered, when he would see the shoes correct, like kind of all over the place, because sometimes people are rushing to get in, they'll just put their shoes off and they'll go in, he would stand and he would start lining up the shoes. He would start putting them together. Even some people, they were like shocked. They were like, oh, this is Ayatollah Burjadi. He's like the manager of the time, but he's lining up the shoes. And so when someone said, no, I do it, he says, no. He says, I love to do this. He says, this is a service for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. He's not one who would deliver like the majlis and the masail. He says, but at least I can do this. He said, I don't have the style of the Majlis. He said, but at least I can straighten the shoes of those who have come to remember the sacrifice of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam. So the first thing that we need to do is save our children from sin. And one of the best ways is to encourage them to come and be at the masjid or to be in the service of Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdal salatu wassalam. The second thing which we learn from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which He commands us in the Quran, and that is to gain knowledge and virtues. That we should gain knowledge and virtues, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions also in Surah Al-Jumu'ah, that is the day of Jumu'ah, that the Prophet, he came, يُعَلِّمْهُمُ الْكِتَابِ وَالْحِكْمَةِ, that one of the greatest tasks or duties and responsibility of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is to teach knowledge and wisdom, to teach that knowledge and wisdom. And of course, that means that our responsibility is to gain knowledge and wisdom. And as I mentioned in the Khutbah al-Jumu'ah, this is something that was emphatic. It was emphatic in the words of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdal salatu wassalam, that we should learn. In fact, Imam Jafar al-Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam himself, he says that if he saw a youth among the mu'mineen that was not learning, he said that, and it was kind of metaphorical, it was this, that I would have gone and I would kind of struck him so that he would go and he would learn. That this is the importance of learning and understanding our deen. And picking up those jewels which the Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdal salatu wassalam, that they have given us. And one of those jewels, again, very beautifully kind of understood from Agar Ramadani as well about his mother, is that one of those things that she would recite was the ziyarat of Ashura. She would recite the ziyarat of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam. He says every day she would recite the ziyarat. Every day she would remember Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam. And this is something that also Imam Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam, that he encouraged, that to remember Sayyid al-Shuhada Imam Hussein. That every day. Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam also said, he says, even if it's just as simple as saying, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. That it's important to remember that sacrifice of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam. One very beautiful anecdote also about this is that Allama Tabatabai, rahmatullah alayhi, who again we know Allama Tabatabai, he is a student of Sayyid Qadhi, one of those individuals who had a very high station of ma'rifah among the urafa, as he was considered to be among the urafa. He himself, he stated that when his wife, a very mu'min individual, that every day she would also recite the ziyarat of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam. Every day she recited. He says, and with that, he says, his interaction with her, he could see that she was also someone who had ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, in his memoirs as well, because his wife passed away before him, he said that at times he would hear the response of Imam Hussein, that salam that she would give, that he would hear that response of Imam Hussein. So increase our ma'rifah, our understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The third responsibility that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives us in the Quran, He orders us, which I want to focus a bit upon, and this is regarding the verse I recited in the beginning, Surah Al-Furqan, verse number 74, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives this command to the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But although this command is directly to the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that this is an example for ourselves, it's an example for our household. And it shows the status of the role and the importance of the mother when it comes to the tarbiyah, when it comes to raising and educating the children. And what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, He says, وَذُكُرْنَا مَا يُتْلَى فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ مِنْ آيَاتِ اللَّهِ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. Subhanallah. That remember those verses that were recited in your house. Remember what was recited in your homes of the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and hikmah. So, on one hand, again, this mother within the household, she's like the treasure chest of what? Of the knowledge. She's the treasure chest of the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She's the treasure chest of the ahadith of Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdal salatu wasalam. And that treasure chest, that this individual who remembers the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and remembers that wisdom from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and of course, in the household of Rasulullah, who is Madinatul Hikmah, who is the city of wisdom, that they remember this, but remembering it by itself is not beneficial. And quite a few of the ulama, they said that, again, a person who, they just memorize. And this happens sometimes. So they memorize the books, okay, they can, from memory, they can read, Bid'atul Hikmah from the beginning to the end, or some of the books of the Hausa from the beginning to the end, they memorized it. But if you just simply memorize it, but one, you haven't really understood it, or you haven't put it into practice, or you haven't been able to build upon that knowledge, then they say that that's not really ilm. That's just memorization. But that knowledge, and this is what is emphasizing here, not just simply to remember وَذْكُرْ مَا يُتْلَى فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ, but the emphasis here is as you remember, but also you transmit. You remember, you understand, because in order to transmit something, you have to understand it. And the mothers, subhanAllah, for the children in that household, the mother's the first teacher. Mother's the first teacher. And this is why quite often, in some very rare cases, you'll see that it's opposite of this. But in most cases, the child will always say mama before she says dada. She'll call the mother before she calls father. There are some cases where it's opposite of that. Some cases. But quite often, the child will say mama. Because that mother is there with her child. That mother is quite often transmitting this knowledge to the children. One of the great scholars, Sheikh Ansari, that he himself, he said that his knowledge and what he's gained, he said it's from his mother. He says while she was pregnant with him, that she always was in a state of wudu. And this affects many riwayat about that, about the state of the mother when she's pregnant with her child, what she's listening to, what she's reflecting upon, what she's thinking. All of these things, it affects her, what she's eating, her practices during that time. So the mother is that treasure chest. She's that one who, again, brings forth that knowledge to the child. But of course, again, the father has a very important role as well. Because when we think about this as well, that the father also must encourage that in their household that the Quran is being read. They must encourage that in their household that the ahadith of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdal salatu wasalam are being read, or being reflected upon, or being discussed. And again, this is one of the ways to develop that household that is righteous. That both the mother and her father, that they discuss the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That they speak about the ahadith of Rasulullah and Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdal salatu wasalam. That it becomes a part of their lifestyle. So that household would be a household that yutla fi buyutikunna. That a household that in that home the Quran is recited. In that household the ahadith, the riwayat of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdal salatu wasalam is mentioned and it is discussed. And this is something that is very prominent in the house. It should be mentioned. Another thing which, subhanAllah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He commands us in the Quran, that what we should do in order to raise our household, make them a righteous household. And that is to teach responsibility to our offspring. To teach them also to become the forerunners in the society, the leaders of society. And where does this come? It comes in the dua of Ibrahim, or the statement of Ibrahim. He says, وَالَّذِينَ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَجَعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. So yes, this is a dua of Ibrahim. But it's a dua that also we should recite, that, oh Allah, that again make our children, our offspring, again the light of our eye. Make them among those individuals who we love. We love them, they love us. وَجَعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. And then truly give us that responsibility, or give us that role as the imam, or as the wali of our household. And as I said, that the primary walayat in the household is with the father. But the mother also has walayat as well. And that walayat is, again, this is why the children, they must obey the mother. Paradise is at the feet of the mother. And some of the ulama, they've described it in this way, that the mother, she is under the walayat of the father. And so if the children are under the walayat of the mother is under the walayat of the father is fulfilling his responsibility. And together that shapes the walayat of that household. And there you have that, you could say, almost hierarchy, but not a hierarchy in that sense that there's a tyrant in the household. No. That walayat is, in many areas, also a shared responsibility. A shared responsibility between the husband and the wife. Inshallah, that if we fulfill these duties, these responsibilities to safeguard our children from sin, we instill within them virtue, we also instill within them the sense of responsibility within the community, then inshallah our path will be a good path in this life, that we will have good in this way and also in our transition into the akhirah. I'll end with just a few statements that, subhanAllah, is very beautiful, I would say, seerat of this is Sister Marhuma Marzia Kafshin, that how her life, it progressed. As I said, she comes from a family that was in the service of Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdal salatu wasalam. And that service of Ahlul Bayt, again, at the Haram of Imam Rida alayhi salatu wasalam, again, quite often those individuals who were in that service, they were guaranteed a space, a grave plot inside the Haram of Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida, either in the courtyard or around there. But the selflessness of the family, that she gave her plot to someone else. Oh, hey, I had a family member who passed away before me. Yes, although I can be buried there, and then, right with Imam Rida, this person may need it more than I do. So she gave that up for another family member. And when she fell ill, and subhanAllah, on the day of the wafat of al-Mu'mineen, Khadija al-Kubra, sallallahu alayha, this is the day that she also passed away. And her own mother was named Khadija, subhanAllah. But as she passed away in that transition, again, this is the beautiful transition from this dunya to the next world. It was very beautiful. And also, they said that when she had fallen ill and she was in the hospital, Agar al-Madani, he said that he was here, he was tending to her, but he mentioned nothing to his cousins. So, two of his cousins, and they called on at two separate times. So one cousin called and asked, he says, "Is your mother okay? Is everything okay?" And so he was like, "Why are you asking?" So one cousin said, I had a dream and I saw our grandmother, meaning the mother of Karama, Marahuma, Marazia, Kafshin. I saw her and she was cooking. Again, my grandmother's passed away. So I saw her and she was cooking and she said, I have a guest coming. So I'm cooking, I'm preparing for my guest. The other cousin called and also asked her, is your mother okay? Because she also had the dream and saw their grandmother. And that second dream says that she was sewing a dress. She said, oh, I have a guest coming, my daughter is coming. So I'm preparing for her to come. That's subhanAllah, that when we live our life, and sometimes it could be a small thing, one thing, that where we connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we connect to the Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdal salatu wasalam, and when our transition goes from this life to the next, that it will be an easy transition. A transition meant, as Abu Ramadan said, his mother was in the hospital. He says it was basically around the time of Suhoor. And he said himself, he looked at his mother, he began to tell her, like, oh mother, this is the time I remember that you would always fix our Suhoor when we were young, we were growing up. And it's like, and there's nothing I can say to thank you more than, there's nothing I can show you that how much I appreciate what you've done. And so he placed the adhan, he turned on the adhan. And he says, and right when the adhan finished, this is when she took her last breath. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. That we come into this world with the adhan, that someone who comes into the world with the adhan, that again, when you're born, the adhan is recited in the right ear, the iqamah in the left. But also, subhanAllah, at the end of life, to return back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the adhan being played. There's only one other I can remember, that near the end of your life, that they asked, they wanted to hear the adhan. And that was the mother of Imam Hassan al-Hussein, Fatima Zahra, salamu alayha. Well, she sent a message for Bilal to come and to recite the adhan. I want to hear the adhan of my father, just one time. He said to Bilal, he came and at the wishes of Fatima Zahra, he began to recite the adhan. But when he began to say, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, they said Fatima Zahra, at that point she became unconscious. Some had thought that she had passed away at that moment. They went to Bilal, they said, Ya Bilal, stop. That either she's unconscious or she has passed away. She went back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't recite the adhan. This is enough. This is enough, Ya Bilal. That's subhanAllah. That also, that even in this point, she knows the Kafshin, that on the wafat of Khadija Kubra sallallahu alayha, she passes away. And almost like in the Sunnah of Fatima Zahra with the adhan playing, she passes away. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, wa saya'lamu alladhina dhalamu ayyuhum munqalibun. اللهم اغفر ذنوبنا واستر عيوبنا واقضي حوائجنا واشف مرضانا وارحم موتنا وعجل فرج مولانا صاحب العصر والزمان واجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره والمستشيرين بين يديه وتحت لواء بحق محمد وآله الطاهرين.